Okay, in this video we're going to do some simple interest problems. So for question 1, we need for each of the following amounts we need to calculate the amount of simple interest that's earned and the total amount A at the end of the term. Okay, let's do the first one here. So to do these problems, we've got $1,200 and it's being allowed to mature or earn interest for 1 year at the rate of 10.5% per annum. To find out how much interest we need to use this equation. The amount of interest earned equals the principal times the rate of interest times the amount of time, all divided by 100, or we can summarize that as PRT divided by 100. Okay, we're going to need to use our calculator to work these out. So let's put in the solve function into our calculator. And we'll write in the equation. Interest equals P. First we need to do a fraction. So on top we've got P times R times T. And on the bottom we've got 100. And notice we had to put in these multiplication symbols here. We can't just write PRT or the calculator will get a bit confused later on. So then we put in a comma and we put the I to tell the calculator we're interested in the I part of the equation. Okay, then we need to define each of the variables, the PR and the T, and we do that by using this vertical up and down symbol, which you can find in the maths option section here. So you've got trig, calc and option down the bottom of your keyboard display down here, and there you've got that vertical bar there in the middle of the option menu. So once you've put that vertical bar in, then we can define each of the variables. So the principal in this question, it says $1,200 is the principal for 1 year at 10.5% per annum. So let's put in 1,200, another vertical bar, and then the rate of interest, we need to write in the percentage, 10.5. We don't need to write the percent symbol, just the number. And then another define symbol, and the time in this case is 1 year, so T equals 1. When we execute that, or press enter for the answer, it tells us the amount of interest earned is 126. Okay, so we worked out for part I, the amount of interest earned was $126, and that means that the total amount is going to be 1,200, the amount we had at the start, plus 126. 1,200 plus 126 equals $1,326. So that was the total amount that we earned. Alright, let's do this one here, C. This time we've got $960, 2.5 years at 9.2% per annum. Okay, we don't need to rewrite the whole equation. All we need to do is go into our first equation now and just change the numbers that are in there. So we'll change it to 960. And the rate of interest this time is 9.2, and the amount of time is 2.5 years, 2.5 years, and press enter, and it tells us that the amount of interest earned is $220.80, and that's going to mean that the total amount is going to be 960 plus 220.8, which equals $1,180.80. So there we go. Okay, the next question we'll do E. So we've done A, C, E. We're going to do E and G. Alright, so this time the principal amount's $18,400, but this time we've got a number of days for our time instead of a number of years, so that's going to be important. And we get given a little hint here. It says we've got to write 100 days as a fraction of a year. So we need to express, what it's saying there is we need to express our amount of time as an amount of years. The reason for that is that the equation includes this rate term, which is per annum, per year. Okay, so for the equation to make sense, our time needs to be expressed in years, otherwise it gets all mucked up. So we've got to turn 100 days into a year. Let's do that. 100 days we express that as an amount of years, we'd do 100 divided by 365. That's how many days there are in a year. And that tells us that we've got 0.27, let's say 0.27 of a year. Okay, so for E, let's write that down. Our amount of time for E is 0.27 years. Okay, so now we can put all our information into the calculator as before. This time P is 18,400. The rate of interest is 6.89%. And the amount of time is, let's just drag this number here up to there and press enter. And we get told that the amount of interest is 3.47.33. So let's write that in. For E, the amount of interest is $347.33, and so the total amount is going to be 18,400 plus 347.33. Let's put that into a calculator. So we'll drag that number down to here and we'll add it to 18,400, and we get this equals 18,747.33. Okay, finally we're going to do question 1, part G. So let's just put it straight into the calculator. We've got these amounts here, 126,000, and the rate of interest is 8.35, and the amount of time is 6 months. Now we've got to turn that into an amount of years. 6 months, that's an easy one. It's going to be 0.5 years. So we press enter, and we get told that for the interest, we've got $5,260.5, and for the total amount, it's going to be that plus 126,000, which will equal $131,260.50. There we go. Okay, next we're going to calculate the simple interest paid per year on the following investments. We're going to do questions A and C. Alright, for A, we need to put in this amount. That's the principal interest, the principal amount of money, and this is the interest per annum, interest per year. So we need to put that into our equation. We've got P equals 3690, and we've got rate equals 11%, and the time, we're doing it for 1 year. Per year means time is 1 year, and we get interest is $405.90. So $405.90 for A, and for C, we're going to change it to 620 as the principal amount, and for the rate of interest, it's going to be 14 2/3 is 66. Well, it's 6 recurring, so we can just put in a few sixes, and again the amount of time is 1 year, and then we get interest equals $90, and we'll round it off to the nearest cent, so $90.93. Okay, let's go to the next question. Okay, in this question, we've got to calculate the simple interest that has to be paid if $4,650 is invested on term deposit for 180 days at 5.7% per annum. Okay, so in this case, we've got P equals 4650. The R equals 5.75% per annum. and the amount of time. Now we've got to express this in years, but they've given it to us as 180 days. Okay, so we've got to convert that into years, and here's how we do it. If we've got 180 days and there's 365 days in a year, then doing that fraction is going to give us the amount of years in 365 days. You can see it's going to be just under half, but let's put it into the calculator. So 180 divided by 365, whoops, didn't mean to do that answer at the end there, equals 0.493. So we'll just round it to 0.49 years. Okay, now we can put those values into the calculator, into our simple interest equation. So P equals 4650, R equals 5.75, and T equals 0.49. And that gives us interest is $131 and 1 cent. There we go. Let's do the next question. Okay, in this question we've got to, well, let's read the question. How long to the nearest month will it take to earn $1,950 simple interest if $16,325 is invested at 9.75% per annum? So notice this question is asking us how long to the nearest month will it take. So we're not being asked to find I in this case. In fact, we've been told that I is 1950, and we've been told that P is 16,325 and that R is 9.75. What we don't know is T, the amount of time. And notice they've asked us to give that in months. Okay, so when we put those values into this equation this time, we're going to have to rearrange things slightly. Instead of finding I, we're going to have to change the I at the end of the equation there to the T. The T is now what we're interested in. And as before, we put in the principal, which is 16,325, and we can put in R. We know R is 9.75, and we don't know T. So we're going to take out T and change that to I equals 1950. So we're putting in again the information that we know, and it will spit out T for us. So there we go, T equals 1.225. We'll round it to 1.23. Now that's 1.23 years, but we need to give our answer in months. Okay, to do that, if there was 1 month, it would be 12. If there was 1 year, it would be 12 months. So to convert years into months, we've just got to multiply it by 12, because for every year there's 12 months. So 1.23, we'll drag that number there down here, multiply it by 12, and we get 14.7 months. 14.7 months, which equals to the nearest month 15 months. So that's our answer. Okay, in question 5, Norman's borrowed $3,500 for 8 months at 10.75% per annum, simple interest. Calculate the total amount Norman must repay at the end of the term of the loan. Okay, so at the beginning, Norman's got P, he borrows P equals $3,500. Okay, by the end of the term, he's going to have to pay back an amount A, which will be $3,500 plus some amount of interest. Okay, so we're going to have to work out what is that amount of interest that he had to pay back in addition to his $3,500, and then we can work out what A is. Okay, so of course R is 10.75%, 10.75, and the time is 8 months, which we need to convert into an amount of years. So 8 months, let's do 8 over 12. 8 months out of 12 months equals 2 out of 3, 2 and 2/3 of a year. 2/3 years, which we can express as 0.66 recurring years. Okay, so we've got all our values, we just need to put them into the equation. Now this time we're not finding t, we're finding I, so let's change the equation back to finding I. And then for p, we need to put in 3,500. For r, we put in 10.75%. And we're not trying to find I, sorry, yes we are trying to find I, so I equals, no, but we've got to put in the time, t equals 0.6666, we'll just put in a bunch of sixes, make it as accurate as possible. Okay, so the interest, I, equals $250.83, and if we add that to 3,500, then we get 3,750.83 cents. That's how much Norman had to pay back. The amount he borrowed plus that amount of interest. Okay, in question 6, we've got to work out the total value of an investment of $3,500 after 2 years and 6 months if the simple interest is paid at the rate of 5% per annum. Okay, so we've got the principal amount is 3,500. We've got R equals 5%, and we've got time equals 2 years and 6 months, which is 2.5 years. Okay, so let's put that into our equation. P equals 3,500, we've already got that. R equals 5 and T equals 2.5. And we get I equals 437.5. So that's obviously answer A. Let's do the next one. Okay, in this question, we're asking what sum to the nearest dollar must be invested for 1 year at 6% per annum simple interest in order to earn $1,200 interest. So in this case, we're being told that the amount of interest that's going to be earned is $1,200, or that we want to earn is $1,200. So they're asking us to work out how much do we need to invest? What is the principal sum? What does that need to be? We know that the time equals 1 year, and the R equals 6%. Okay, so we're trying to work out, okay, so we need to change the equation to make P the focus, and then we're going to remove P from there because we don't know P. We're going to put in the I equals 1,200, put in R equals 6 and T equals 1. Sure, it's just 1, not 1.5. And there we go. We know the principal amount that we need is $20,000. So P must equal $20,000 in order to get that amount of interest. And there it is, answer C. Okay, Rodney borrowed $3,500 from the Student Credit Union for 2 years at 8% per annum, simple interest, with repayments made by equal installments at the end of each calendar month. The amount Rodney has to pay at the end of each month to the nearest dollar is, okay, so the principal amount is $3,500. The rate at which it's being borrowed is 8%, and the time that it's being borrowed for is 2 years. So Rodney's having to pay back this amount at 8% over 2 years. So the thing that we don't know is the interest that he has to pay. Okay, so if we can work out the amount of interest that he has to pay, whatever that is, then they want to know how much he has to pay each month. So we would need to divide the amount of interest, whatever it turns out to be, by the number of months, and we'll have the amount he needs to pay back each month. Okay, so let's find out how much interest he needs to pay back. let's put the values into our equation, change the focus to I, and so we're not going to be putting I in, we're going to be putting in P equals 3,500, we'll put in R equals 8%, and we'll put in time equals 2 years. So the amount of interest that has to be paid back is $560, and it's got to be paid back over 2 years, so 560 divided by 2, but in fact we want to know each month, so instead of dividing it by 2 years, we're going to divide it by that many months, which is 24 months. There's 24 months in 2 years. So when we put that into the calculator, 560 divided by 24, we get $23.3. So each month he's got to pay back $23.3, as well as this $3,500 amount divided by 24. So in fact what we might do is add up the two amounts, 3,500 plus the amount of interest, which is 560, and divide that by 24, because he doesn't just have to pay the interest back, he's also got to pay back the principal amount. So when we put that into the calculator, which is 4,060 divided by 24, 4,060 divided by 24, we get $169.16. $169.16. That's what he's got to pay back every month, and so that's going to be answer A. There we go. Okay, in question 7, find how many months it takes to produce the simple interest in each of the following investments. So we're being told that there's an amount being invested. We're being told how much interest is accrued, how much interest is gained on that investment, and we're told the interest rate. So what we don't know in every case is the time it takes to gain that amount of interest, given that principal and that interest rate. So we're going to be finding T. Alright, let's do question A. So we know that the P, the principal, is $850. That's the amount being invested. We know that the interest earned turns out to be $65, and we know that R equals 8.25. So what we don't know is T. So let's use our equation in the calculator to find T. So in this case, we've got to change the focus of the equation to T. The principal is 850. R is 8.25. We don't know T, so we're going to remove that and replace it with I equals $65. Okay, and it tells us that T equals 0.9269, or if we round it off, 0.93. So T equals 0.93 years. But this question asks how many months it takes. So we've got to turn years into months. Okay, in order to turn years into months, we've got to multiply the years by 12. So we'll take our number of years, multiply that by 12, and we get 11.12 months. 11.12 months. There we go. For the other one, for E, let's do the same thing. We've got P equals 2,900. We've got I equals 330, and we've got R equals 4.95. So let's find T. $2,900 for P. R is 4.95, and I is 330, and we get T equals 2.298. 2.299, I think, if we round it off. So that's in years, so we've got to multiply it by 12 again. Let's drag it down here and multiply it by 12. to get 27.59 months. Not months. Okay, so those are our two answers. If we wanted to round it off, that'd be 28 months, and this would be 11 months. But it doesn't actually say to round it off, so let's give an accurate answer to 2 decimal places. Okay, in this question, we've got to determine how much money to the nearest dollar must be invested to produce. Let's do A and C. Okay, so we don't know the principal in this case. We're being asked to work out how much money do we need to invest. What does the principal need to be? So that's what we don't know. We know R equals 7.65. This is for A. And we know that T equals 4 years. So let's put those, and we also know that I equals 2120. So let's put that all into the calculator. Change the focus to P, and then we don't know P, so we'll get rid of that. Let's put in I equals 2120, R equals 7.65, and T equals 4. And then we get P equals 6,928.10. 6,928.10 dollars. That's what we need to invest. That's what P needs to be in order to get that amount of interest. Okay, for C, we've got P, again we don't know. R equals 11.25%. T equals 6 months, which is 0.5 years. And I, the amount of interest, is $8,200. Put it into the calculator. So I equals 8,200. R equals 11.25. And T equals 0.5. P must equal 145,777.78. 14577.78. There we go. That's the amount of money we need to invest in order to get that interest returned. Okay, in this question we're going to do A and C. We need to find the rate of simple interest. So in this case we don't know R, that's what we're going to try and find. So they must have given us P. They've told us P is 3,500, this is for A. They've told us that T equals 1.5 years and the amount of interest earned is $375. Alright, so this is the first time I think that we've had to work out R. Let's hope it all works out okay. So we know I is 375. We don't know R. We're going to replace R with P equals 3,500 and T equals 1.5. Okay, so it's told us that R equals 7.14. 7.14%. That's going to be a percentage. So that's the rate of return that we need, the rate of simple interest. And for the next one, C, we want to find R again. We know that P is 6,200, T equals 9 months, which is 9 months equals 0.75 years. You can work that out by doing 9 over 12 equals 0.75, 12 months in a year. And the amount of interest, I, equals 406.88. Let's put those numbers in. So I equals 406.88. P equals 6,200. and t equals 0.75. And we get r equals 8.75. And remember, that is a percentage, so we've got to add that percentage symbol. Okay, and question 10. Sue and Harry invested $14,500 in state government bonds at 8.65% per annum. The investment is for 10 years and the interest is paid semi-annually, that is every 6 months. Calculate how much interest they receive every payment and will be received in total. Okay, so without even really knowing what's going on here, state government bonds, whatever, it doesn't really matter. We need to know what are our key pieces of information here. The principal, the amount they're investing, is $14,500, so we can write that down. The rate of interest is 8.65%. We also could be looking at I and T. Now, the interest that's going to be paid to them semi-annually every 6 months, we don't know that. We don't know how much interest they're going to get. That's what we need to work out. The amount of time, though, they've told us it's 6 months. We need to know how much money they're going to get back in interest in 6 months' time. So 6 months is half a year, so the amount of time is 0.5 years. So we can put these numbers into the calculator. It's going to give us the amount of interest they'll earn in 6 months. So this time we're going to change the focus to I. We're interested in I. So we're going to remove this bit here, replace it with P equals 14,500. Instead of P, we're going to put R equals 8.65. And instead of 0.75 for T, we're going to put 0.5. And it tells us that the interest is 627.125. So that's how much interest they would earn every 6 months. That's the answer to the first part, part A. For part B, it says how much will be received in total. So how much interest will they get at the end of the investment, which goes for 10 years? There's two ways we could work this out. We could put all this information back into the calculator, but change the amount of time from 6 months, change it to 10 years, and it will tell us the total amount. But since we know that they're getting this amount every 6 months, and in 10 years, we know that there's going to be 20 6-month periods. Every year there'll be 2 6-month periods, so every year there'll be 2 of these. So we just have to multiply this by 20 and it will give us the answer we're looking for here. So let's do answer times 20, and it tells us 12,542.5. 12,542.5. That's how much money we would get in total, or Sue and Harry would get in total at the end of the 10-year period. Okay, question 11. Anna invested $85,000 on Ski International debentures. Don't worry about what that is, it doesn't matter. It's obviously got something to do with simple interest. She earns 7.25% per annum. Okay, so far we've found out the principal is 85,000. The rate of return, the rate of interest is 7.25%, and that's paid quarterly for 1 year. So that's going to be important. Quarterly for 1 year, a quarter of a year for the total duration of 1 year. Calculate how much interest she receives quarterly. So that would be how much interest she receives when the time is 1/4 of a year, or 0.25 years. So let's put that into the calculator. That's going to mean that the I is what we don't know. That's what we're going to be working out. So let's put into the calculator P equals 85,000, R equals 7.25, and T equals 0.25. That gives us I is 1540. $1540.625. That's in a quarter. So that's the answer to the first part, which was part I. And then in the second part, we need to work out how much will be received in total. So the total is going to be after 1 year, because this is going on for 4 quarters across 1 year. So we could either change this, we could put all that info back into the calculator, change that to a 1 year, to change the time to 1 year, or we could just multiply this by 4, because we know there's going to be 4 of these periods in 1 year. That's going to be a bit easier. Let's just do that. So we'll take that amount there, multiply it by 4, and there we go, 6162.5. That's how much money is going to be received in total. Okay, in part B, would Anna receive the same amount of interest over a 3-year period if it were paid annually rather than quarterly? Okay, let's work out what would happen if instead of it happening this way, she gets the same amount of interest over a 3-year period and it's being paid annually. Alright, so in this case, P is still 85,000, R is still 7.25, T has now become 1 year, and the thing that we're trying to work out is I. So it's being paid annually, so that's why we've made T 1 year. Alright, so that's all the same. The only thing that's going to change is that T is now 1 year. So of course, the amount she gets after 1 year is 6162.5. That's how much interest she would get after 1 year. Okay, in part B, it asks, would Anna receive the same amount of interest over a 3-year period if it were paid annually rather than quarterly? Now this question is worded in a pretty strange way, a pretty ambiguous way. If it means, would she get the same amount in 1 year of this deal as she did in 1 year of this deal? Well, of course, everything's the same. So if we're talking about 1 year of this 3-year period, yes, she would get the same amount. But to ask would she receive the same amount over 3 years, well, of course not. In 3 years, she's going to get 3 times this amount. So she's going to get 3 times more, so of course it's not going to be the same amount. So it's a bit confusing the way the question's worded. It's either very obviously yes, or it's very obviously no, and it's not clear to me which way it's actually supposed to be interpreted. So hopefully that makes sense. Right, in question 12, Mrs. Williams invested $60,000 in government bonds. So straight away we can see that P is 60,000. We can see that R is 7.49%, and the interest is paid semi-annually every 6 months. So the amount of time we're talking about is 0.5 years, and I is the unknown. How much interest is she paid each 6 months? Okay, let's put those figures into the calculator. So I is the focus still of our equation. Let's change that to 60,000. Change R to 7.49 and change T to 0.5. When we do that, we get I equals 2247. So that's how much you would earn in 6 months. In part B, how much interest is she paid over 3.5 years? So this was a 6-month period. 3.5 years is 7 6-month periods. So if we multiply that by 7, that will give us the answer to B. So let's take that number, multiply it by 7, and we get 15,729. And then lastly, In part C, it asks, for how long would she need to invest the money to earn a total of $33,705 in interest? So now we're saying that P is 60,000 still. We're saying that R is 7.49 still, 7.49%. The time is what we don't know now, and we've been told the interest that we want to accrue is 33,705. So let's put all that into the calculator. So T is unknown, the amount I is 33,705. The rate of interest stays the same and P stays the same. We've just got to change the equation so that T becomes the focus. So when we do that, we get T equals 7.5. So she would need to invest that amount of money for 7.5 years in order to get that amount of interest off it. And there we go, that's all the questions done.